Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. Today I have a very fun lecture. I will be discussing the current statistics on the death penalty, and I also will show you the evidence of racial disparity in our criminal justice program. I will be using the Bureau of Justice Statistics, and for those who might not know, that is the federal agency whose responsibility it is to find, collect, and present this type of information that I am presenting to you today. And according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, the most current statistics that they have on this matter is 2013. And that's what we'll be looking at today. Now, you may know that there's 50 states in the United States. But what you don't know is only 35 of those states execute criminals. The inmates that were executed in 2013, they spent an average of 15.5 years in their facility, whether it is a state facility or a federal facility. They spent 15.5 years on average in that facility before they were executed by the weapon of their choice. Our country gives the people the right to choose their method of execution. And in 2013, the most popular choice was injection. Now, I want to look at the number of people that was on death row in 2013. That number is 2,979 criminals on death row in 2013. And with that being said, 60% of the 2,979 criminals on death row, that all came from 5 states out of the 35 states that participate in the death row. The 5 states was California, Pennsylvania, Florida, Texas, and Alabama. So the 35 states, they all have people on death row in 2013. But obviously majority is coming from those 5 states that I just mentioned. Now, of the 2,979 criminals that are on death row, we have 55.8% of those criminals on death row were white, and 41% of those criminals were black, and a very small percentage other races. Which also brings me to my next topic, admissions. Each state has the right to put people on death row, those 35 states. But before they put someone on death row, they must ask the federal government if they're allowed. So, in 2013, we had 83 admissions, and of those 83 admissions, 59% were white, and 39.8% were black, and a very small percentage was another race, such as Hispanic, Native American, Samoan, you name it. The state also has the power to remove people off of death row, obviously with the permission of the federal government. We had 115 removals in 2013. 60.9% were white, 37.4% were black, 12.1% were Hispanic, and another small percentage were another race. Now, I would like to look at the criminal history of inmates that are on death row. Now, particularly, we're going to look at the inmates that are on death row with felony convictions prior to them committing their capital offense, which put them on death row, obviously. So, now looking at the inmates on death row with felony convictions, we're going to look at, we have 73% of the black people who are on death row had a felony conviction, 73% of them. 65% of the Hispanics that were on death row had a felony conviction prior to their capital offense, and 64% for whites. With that being said, I also want to look at the criminal history of the criminals on death row who had prior homicide convictions. And that was 9% of the white people had prior homicide convictions before their capital offense, which landed them on death row. 10% of black people had prior homicide conviction prior to their capital offense that landed them on death row. And 7% for Hispanics. And lastly, I want to look at the criminal history for people who are on probation or parole at the time of them committing the capital offense. 32% of Hispanics were on parole or probation during the time they committed their capital offense. 31% of black people were on parole or probation when they committed their capital offense. And 24% of white people were on probation or parole when they committed their capital offense. Now I want to discuss how many people were executed in 2013. There were 39 people executed in 2013. 23 of those people were white, 13 of those people were black, and 3 of those people were Hispanic. And I also found in the Bureau of Justice and Statistics, in 2014, 39 people were executed. Lastly, I want to show you the evidence of racial disparity. From what I've seen, the biggest racial disparity dealing with the death penalty is the removal process. Like I said before, the removal process is when the state asks the federal government for permission to remove a certain person off of the death row. There are 115 people that was removed from death row. 60.9% were white, 37.4% were black, and 12.1% were Hispanic. Those percentages are just crazy. There are more white people on death row, but 60.9% of the 115 people removed from death row, they still get way more majority of the people getting removed from death row. Is not fair, and the numbers do not match. Like I said before, all of the information that I just presented to you today, all can be found at the Bureau of Justice Statistics website. And I'll provide the link to you at the end of this video so you can see all of this information and data firsthand, and you can see what I had to go through. And it's kind of fun and exciting to do it all, so I encourage you to do it. Have a nice day.